Come and take a walk with me back to 2007 and 2008. Everything was good in 2006, so you thought. And then financially everything went to crap. You lost your job, you went belly up on your debts, and you don't have enough money saved. So now what are you gonna do? What's up everybody, welcome to Montage, where we talk tech and personal finance. If you're joining me for my last video on Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps toward financial peace, thank you. I talked about how it works and all the positives, but this is a different tone. Today we're gonna look at when they don't work so well. But either way, you can still support the chocolate YouTube man by squishing the like button. Thank you. All right, now take a walk with me back to 2007 and 2008. Well, I guess you don't have to, not anymore, because of COVID-19. This pandemic has exposed a lot of poor financial planning, from individual household finances to corporate and government finances. Everybody living paycheck to paycheck. The economy has slowed so much and so drastically that some industries are literally at a standstill. Although some things are opening now, and whether that should or shouldn't happen is a different topic, this was obviously unexpected and has caught many of us in a pickle, for lack of a better phrase. So here's what I think the baby steps should look like, and naturally I call these Toddler steps. I'd say these are best for the person who are unsure of the longevity of their income source, whether that's from their own doing or the company that they're working for. I did have step 1 as give, but I've since changed. Full disclosure, I was prepared to tear into this every which way from Sunday, and I don't know if that's actually a saying. I'm pretty sure it's not, but that's just how I feel. I wanted so badly to feel like the bigger, better person by giving the entire time, but I ran the numbers and I looked at this from every angle I could think of, and the bottom line is I can give more money away in the same amount of time if I delay my giving right now. As much as I want to think of it as the noble thing and making the sacrifice, I'll actually be sacrificing less long term to do a little here and a little there. So now we'll go back to Yusuf's paying off debt model to show you how. Okay, so here we are, we're back in Yusuf's debt repayment model. So say he wants to give 6% of his take home, and that would be $240 for the month. So if he did that consistently for 60 months, that would be $14,400. Now, remember that if he's under the 7 baby steps, he would be done with all of his debt in 44 months instead of 60. So the remaining balance would be $16,688 for the next 16 months that he could be giving. But that's only half, because altogether he would have $33,376 to have to do something with for the remainder of those 16 months. How much of that he decides to give is up to him, but this number is much bigger than $14,400. And also remember that with this $240, that would be taken out of this amount of money that he's starting off with and paying off his debt sooner and building up his emergency fund, which in turn means it's going to take him longer to build up step 1, take him much longer to build up step 2, and step 3, so on and so forth. Establish an emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Say as of March 1st, 2020, you were in Ramsey's debt repayment step 2. And from step 1, you only have $1,000 saved. Then you lose your job and your monthly living expenses are $1,700. Now you're left with the anxiety of knowing you can only survive another month. You need work immediately. You still have debt to pay, and now you're being fussed at that you better not take out another loan, but you're just trying to eat. I know during this time that Dave and colleagues are saying to not pay extra on debt and stack up to protect your 4 walls. But that doesn't apply when you don't have income. It'd be better if you had a few months saved to give yourself some time to find the next thing. Now, this will take longer to save up and cost more in interest because there's a smaller pool of funds to utilize when needing to maintain minimum payments on debt. Pay off debt using the avalanche method, except for your mortgage. Not everybody needs that incremental pat on the back by having the smallest loan paid off for motivation. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're like me, saving money is all the motivation that you need. One of my motivations for paying any debt off early is knowing that it's saving me money in the long term by removing interest. The avalanche method works similarly to the snowball method, where you maintain minimum payments on all accounts, but you make your additional payments to the highest interest debt first. So now let's go back to the spreadsheet to see how. Okay, so back to the model, and we're looking at the Tyler steps now. Yusuf decides to split up the 3 to 6 months into a couple steps. So instead of doing the full 6 months up front, he's just going to do 3 months, which would take him about 8 months to build up, since he only has this amount of money to build that fund. And then he goes on to paying off the debt, which will take 2 years and 9 months. And then another 3 months will be storing up for 6 months of living expenses. Everything else after this will basically be the same besides retirement, but again, I'm only showing a debt repayment model here. But what is important to look at is this number right here. Like I said before, that there is going to be that trade-off of having money stored up for any emergency, you losing your job, you losing any type of income, and paying higher in interest. So here, this is the 7 baby steps versus the Tyler steps, where you will be spending $1,050 more in interest. Now, I honestly don't love that idea, right? Like, nobody wants to spend more in interest, but again, there is that trade-off. However, I will add the caveat here. So the caveat here is that if you have high interest debt, which would be credit cards, and in this case, I'm saying anything over 7%, then I would say stick with the 7 baby steps and then come back to the Tyler steps. So I'm gonna go over here and show you this, because I feel like it would be wrong of me to talk about these things and not show you multiple options, multiple angles, multiple ways to look at this. This is a way to look at things if you were to combine the Tyler steps and the 7 baby steps. So you would still take 7 baby steps, step 1 and 2, but only for your credit card, because the credit card, again, is at 18% interest rate. And that's really high. Like, there's just not any reason to pay $1,000 more in interest just because of that. Also, what I want you to see here is the original debts owed and the original interest. So here we were at $13,500 roughly. And as we go further on, if we look at the Tyler steps, it's $5,300. And then this is $6,300. So you're still saving $1,000. When I say you, I mean Yusuf. And the last thing that I want to point out is that 6 months of living expenses is saved at 44 months in combined steps. It's also 44 months in the Tyler steps. It's also 44 months in the 7 baby steps. So that's what I want you to look at. That's what I want you to compare is, do you want to have more money saved in interest? Do you want to have more money saved up in case of an emergency? Or do you want the Goldilocks? Do you want a little of both worlds? Let me know in the comments. For the 8-time retirement plan, it's really hard to think that 15% is a one-size-fits-all number. If Yusuf is 27 and he starts at 15% retirement contributions, in 40 years when he's 67, that's over $2.1 million. But if he started at 47, that's just over $400,000. That's a significant difference. Unfortunately, not everybody starts early. If you're later in the game, then you maybe need to contribute more than 15 to catch up. But there are different retirement rule of thumbs that exist, such as the 8 times milestone plan, where you meet investment milestones as you hit age milestones. By 30, you should have half of your current salary saved, 40, 2 times your current salary saved, 50, 4 times your current salary, 60, 6 times your current salary, and 67, 8 times your current salary. There's also a rule for 10 times your salary at 67, but obviously that's all dependent on you and your needs. I'll be leaving some links in the description, so I hope you find those useful. Save for child's education, pay off home early, build wealth, and give. The remainder of those I would essentially keep the same because they're vague. It's hard to disagree that when you're out of debt, you have the freedom to do with your money whatever you please. And the person that works their way out of debt usually has the fire to never go into debt again. You'll plan harder and work smarter. But 7, I'm gonna throw in as an option. I put this last because it's kind of unnecessary. If you have 6 months saved, you will be okay in most cases. But if you're like me, you like to plan for the worst of the worst case scenarios because you never know. The average length of unemployment is 22 weeks in the United States. And 20.6% of the unemployed were out of work 27 weeks or longer. And for those of you who aren't doing the math, that's about 7 months. That's a long time, and especially difficult in a recession. If you can, do this. It's not gonna hurt you if you do, but it could if you don't. The Montyler Steps gives you less anxiety while building your family's wealth because the focus here is how much money you save and when you save it. It will take a little longer to reach certain goals, and you'll spend more in interest because you're building up a larger emergency fund with less disposable income. But you'll be better covered in the case of a sudden catastrophe. Of course, you don't have to listen to me. Assess your own risk. There's a risk of living too close to the edge, just like there's a risk of being too cautious. I'm personally glad that we took the approach to build a larger emergency fund sooner than later for reasons that I will cover in the next video. Let me know how you would revamp the steps. Again, I have to disclose that all of this is very difficult if living paycheck to paycheck. Virtually impossible. But with 4 more overly simplified steps, you can begin this journey. 1. Make a budget. Check out my budgeting videos, and I have a couple more to make. Number 2, reduce living expenses. This is something that I will be talking about constantly. Number 3, establish well-defined goals, because what's the point of doing anything and what will keep you motivated if you don't know where you're going? Number 4, increase your income as necessary. I'll be talking more about this as time progresses, but note you're watching me do it. Okay, I'll give you a 5th. Be sure to hit the subscribe and bell notification so you'll be the first to know when I post all my finance videos. Also be sure to check out my tech videos because I'm interested in all kind of things. Thus, this is called Master of None. I'm your host, Kyle. Deuces.
Is the elephant heavy? I'm coming back, baby.